Now, as Peter Credlin quite correctly pointed out a couple of hours ago, there is something very sinister that is happening behind the scenes in the Albanese government right now. But largely, most of the media doesn't want to talk about it for two reasons. One, the government's not really talking about it at all. And two, it's a difficult story to put on television because there's not enough pictures. But you know and I know that there is a decision that has been taken by this government to repatriate to the country the women who left this country to go and join the Islamic Caliphate. ISIS was the organisation that enforced this caliphate, where the punishment for not being someone who has the most radicalised version of the faith, well, death is, of course, the consequence. What was done to Yazidi women is horrific. And because of the actions of ISIS, Australia took in tens of thousands of refugees from the very places where ISIS was running rampant. But the blokes are dead, and the women are now in a refugee camp. And the kids that they either had there or maybe had very little and took with them, now the conversation is, what should happen to them? Well, my answer is, sadly, their parents made a decision and they're all going to have to suffer because they should not be back in Australia. Under any circumstances should they be back in Australia. One that many an MP has had the same to say.
Some, if not all, of the women voluntarily went into Syria. They were very well aware of what they were required to do by ISIS.
They've been indoctrinated in a camp environment where many people who have committed terrorist offences are living.
If you went to a declared area, you were breaking the law. So if they've broken the law, yes, they should be charged.
When we repatriate women, adults and children who have been closely associated with the ISIS terrorist organisation, oftentimes for years and years and years, absolutely these will be radicalised women.
But it's not just the politicians. The community of Western Sydney is a place where so many of these refugees have ended up. And the reality of people coming from places like refugee camps in the Middle East is that they don't end up in teal country. They don't end up living next to the Prime Minister anywhere near Marrickville. Instead, they end up around Western Sydney. And representatives of Western Sydney have also said, no, no, no.
There's a difference between welcoming refugees that want to be part of your country and a difference between welcoming those that actually want to leave your country, turn your back on your country and actually fight against your country.
I'm very concerned because the realities are these ISIS brides should not be coming back to Australia full stop. And if they are, they're going to be dumped in Western Sydney. You can bet your bottom dollar on it.
But despite all of this, it's happening anyway. And the government is completely cowardly in their explanation as to why this must happen. Already we are starting to see leaked reporting that is going to journalists saying that the preparations are underway to return these people. No debate, no discussion, no election promise. This is the consequences of what I talked about for all those days and was made great fun of about the march towards the mad left. There has to be a line in the sand of people who know the difference between right and wrong. And the returning of these people is wrong. The people who fled these people's partners also know that it's wrong. Our loyalty is to them, not to the people who upped and left the country to go and join a place where if you didn't believe what they believe, death was the only option. Has the Prime Minister been asked about this? Of course not. Does the Home Affairs Minister have to give daily briefings? No way. Where is the Immigration Minister? Last time I can see that he was anywhere near the media was a couple of days after the election. There is something very sinister happening here because the government has made a decision that they're going to do it, but they don't have the balls to tell you why or admit that they are doing it. Instead, one day you'll just wake up and it's happened. What does that say about a truly representative democracy? It says that if you get the ear of the government, that they will side with the lobbyists, not the people who we saved from the very place that this thing was being turned into a hellhole by their husbands. It's a disgrace. It truly is. And this tactic of leaking off to the media, as Peter mentioned a couple of hours ago, it is disgraceful. Anyway, hopefully somebody will have the balls to follow up in the next couple of days. But alas, I don't have much faith in anyone other than those that have been talking about this consistently for weeks and weeks like we have been here on Sky News.